Okay, let's create our first model, that is the add employees model. Let's get back to our code here, and we already have some data for that. For example, here you can see the ID that we used was add employee. So we're going to use the same ID to pop up the model. For that, let's get back to the end of the page, that is over here. And after this employees data, I'm going to create a comment here. I'm going to call this as add employee model. And inside this, we're going to call it a div.model, and I want to add a fade effect. Okay, so let me break this because we're going to add a lot of details over here. So we want the fade effect, and then we want an ID, and the ID that we used was add employee ID. So that is add employee. Now, just to make sure, we'll just get back and we'll check it out. So if I scroll to the top, and this is the one, so I'm just going to copy this and paste it here if you're unsure like what ID you used. And right after this ID, we're going to add a data BS backdrop to static. So this way, even if the user clicks outside the model will not close. And then let's set the tab index to -1 because we want that to be hidden. And let's set the aria hidden to true. And then there's one final effect which I want to add, which we did not cover in the bootstrap thing. That's because it's a part of a CSS. The one thing that I want to add here is the backdrop filter. So basically, backdrop filter, I'm going to add a blur effect. So as soon as the model is launched, the entire background becomes blurred. So you will see the effect once this is created. So for this, what I'm going to do is going to create a style tag. And here I'm going to call this as backdrop filter. Okay, and that is a blur effect. And I want the blur effect to be around 5 pixels. Let's save that. And our main part of the model is done. So next thing what we need is the model dialog, which is inside the model. So I'm going to call this as div.model dialog. And we want this dialog to be in the center of the page. So I'm going to call this as model dialog centered. And inside this will create the model content now. So that's div.model content. And inside this, we're going to create a header. So it's a div.model header. And then we need model body. I don't need a footer, so I'm just going to leave that be. And for this header, we're going to say text bg dark, because that's going to create a dark background with the white text for the model header. And inside this, we'll create a h5 tag, and we'll add a class called model title. And here we'll say add employee details. Let's save that. Next, what I need is a close button. So we'll say button, and inside that, we'll say type is button, class is btn close. Now remember, this is a black button, right? So by default, we get a black button, but we're using the background for the header as dark. So we need a white button. So I'm going to call this as btn close white. And then we'll add the effect for that. That is the data bs dismiss. That is, if I click on this, I want to dismiss the model. So what I want to dismiss is the model. And then we'll say aria label is close. Save that. Let's check that out. Let's get to the browser here. And if I click on add employee, you can see that we have that background blur effect in the background. If I click outside, it's not going to close automatically. And then we have this add employee, and then we have this white close button for the model.